Awesome. Thank you. And thanks, Rob. Like Rob is the one who's been leading the Advisor Edge series and pioneering this and going to continue to grow and pour in to advisors. And so one of the things that we teach and I see all the time is the biggest thing that gets in the way of sales in this industry is advisors wanting to make sales. And sometimes people hear that and they're like, if you're in sales, isn't that the whole point is to want to make sales? And that's what has us a lot of times like lead with products or like lead with our solutions or lead with our services. And the most powerful thing you can do to make sales is to actually not want to make sales, but want to serve people. Because the thing that we're trying to get people to, like, I think sometimes we get confused in this industry. We think the thing that we're trying to get people to buy is our product or service. What we're actually trying to get them to buy is a bigger vision of what could be possible for them. And then we're showing them that our product or service is the vehicle that gets them there. The problem is you have a lot of advisors in this industry, even really successful ones, that are still trying to sell their product or their service. And if you can start to shift and think about, because the problem is if you sell your product or service, you look like every other financial advisor. You sound like not that you really are, but to them, you look, sound, and feel like every other financial advisor who's also selling a similar product or service, and they can't differentiate. So perception's realities, and they're all the same. And that was the biggest shift that probably one of the biggest shifts I've ever had in sales was when I realized, my gosh, I've been pretty good at selling, and I've done it trying to sell my product or service. And when I started to shift from selling my product or service to selling them a bigger vision of what could be possible and then showing how my product or service would be the vehicle to facilitate that, everything changed for me in sales. And the other thing that we're selling them on, truly, but this is part of vision, we're selling them on what their life will look like if they don't do this. Not from a scare tactic, not from what we owe it to them to tell them the truth and be like, look, there are some real challenges right now that you're facing. There's some real challenges you're going to face down the road. And if you choose not to do this, whether it's with us or somebody else, I just owe it to you to help you understand the costs if this is unaddressed. Does that make sense? So when I say we're selling them on the vision of what's possible, it's what we could accomplish, but also what we're going to overcome and avoid. And so when you lead with product or solution, it's like one of the easiest ways to commoditize yourself, unfortunately. And when you lead with vision, it has people feel like, wow, like you really do want to know what's actually going on in my world. You really do care about helping me. And I actually believe there's a lot of advisors in this industry that although they lead with product or service, I don't think they're trying to sell someone. I don't think they're trying to be salesy. I think they really are trying to help. The problem though is if I'm sitting over here across from you and you lead with product or service, or you talk a lot about your product or service, I can't help but feel like I'm being sold. And you may not even try to be selling me. You might really just trying to be helpful and educational. You know what I mean? And so it's like one of the fastest ways to commoditize yourself is talk a lot about your product or service. One of the fastest ways to have people feel like you're trying to sell them something is to talk about your product or service. And so one of the things that I really like to think about is this idea that I have to earn the right to tell them about my product or service. And until I've taken the time to actually know what's going on in their world, what their struggles are, what their challenges are, what their goals are, until I've really taken the time to help them see a bigger vision of what's possible, I have not earned the right yet to tell them about my product or service. So we're coaching a firm right now. I think I might have talked about them even on last time I spoke on this. Very unique model. They've got about 25 advisors. They take all their calls virtually. We do sales training with them every Wednesday with their firm. And yesterday their sales leader, sales manager who oversees everyone, he got on and he said, we're about 9 weeks in He got on and he goes, dude, May was the largest month in the history of our firm with regard to sales. And he's, man, we owe a lot of that to the Possibility Co. And we can't take all the credit. Like we've played some part in that, but they certainly have as well. But here's what was fascinating. They've intentionally set up their sales process to be a 3-meeting close. They do an initial meeting, then a secondary meeting, and then a third meeting. They ask for the business. That's what they've done. He said, and in the past, occasionally we would try to, like, if we thought the meeting was going well, we would try to ask for the business at the end of the second meeting, but very rarely would we have success with it. And historically, before we started working with you, Chris, and the Possibility Co., we spent a lot more time in that first meeting talking about our approach, our solution, not necessarily getting into products or services even, but so here's the thing. Even if you're talking about just your approach and what makes you unique, that still is a little bit lumped in. Like you're talking about your product or service. You're talking about your solution. So what he said was, we used to talk a lot about our approach and our solution in the first meeting. We were never getting anyone to move forward at the end of the second. We were even struggling to get people to move forward at the end of the third, and oftentimes they would have to go to a fourth or a fifth. He said, following your framework, we're talking less than we ever have in our first meeting about us, about our product, about our service, about our solution, about our approach. And we now have more people moving forward after the second meeting than ever used to move forward after the third. And it's blowing their minds. In fact, they were like, the sales manager really pushed back on me at first, and because I was like, hey, you guys spend about 20 to 30 minutes right now in the first meeting talking about your approach or your solution. I'm recommending we get that down to 5 minutes. And they were like, what? There's no way we can only spend 5 minutes of the first meeting talking about our approach. What would we fill that time with? I'm like, exactly. You'd fill it with discovery, getting to know more about them, helping them see a bigger vision of what's possible. And it doesn't shock me anymore, but it continually shocks the advisors we work with that the less and less we can get them to talk about the industry and the more we can get them to actually do discovery and help people see a bigger vision of what's possible, they end up converting more clients. So in this industry, we really over-index on industry knowledge, and we really under-index on knowing how to connect with people and actually like really do discovery. And so I'll say one more thing, then I'll open up for some questions. There's a difference between also just, you can ask really insightful questions and get better and better at asking questions and extract a lot of really great information from people. And they'll feel like, wow, you really care. You really are taking the time to listen to me. You really see me. But that doesn't necessarily help them see a bigger vision of what's possible. So that's another skill in and of itself where it's like you have to you have to pull out of them these questions, but then you have to feed it back to them and help them see, here's what could actually be possible for you. Here's what I'm hearing you say, but here's what I actually see that's possible for you. Here's some of your goals and challenges, but here's what I see it's going to cost you if you don't do something about it. Because most of us are pretty aware of what our challenges are. Most of us are pretty aware of some of the goals we have, but we're not super good at seeing beyond both of those, if that makes sense. So it's like really useful when someone can come and connect the dots for us between those two things. And so I know it sounds really straightforward. It might sound super obvious, but it's surprising to me how many advisors still, even really successful ones, struggle with this idea and this concept of we've got to reduce the amount of time we talk about us, our approach, our products or services, and we have to dramatically increase the amount of time we spend like getting to know them and then helping them see what could be possible. And one line I'll give you that's really profound and powerful to say over and over that we teach advisors to say all the time throughout the sales process, but especially in the first meeting, is to say, hey, and look, whether you implement this with us or somebody else, that's like the least salesy thing a salesperson could say. And it's not a tactic. It's like, you got to be authentic and genuine around it. Like I just owe it to you to tell you the truth. Like whether you end up implementing this with us or somebody else, make sure that you get this addressed. Whether you end up working with me or somebody else, just know that this is what's actually possible for you. Whether you work with us or somebody else, just make sure you like get this thing taken care of, or it could really impact you someday. It's proving to them that you're like, yeah, I'm here to serve you first and foremost. Yeah, we might end up working together, but I owe it to you to help you see what's possible, and I owe it to you to help you see what the challenge is going to be around this if you don't do something about it. Thoughts, questions?
Yeah, like you're saying, I agree with what you're saying. I like it. And I think it's a common mistake a lot of advisors make. A question I have is when you say, let's spend the more time showing them what's possible, what does that mean?
Yeah. So, Brian, do you think that the clients you work with, do you think that they know what's truly possible for them and available for them around your industry?
No.
Yeah. It's
Wait a second, wait. When you say what's available for them, what does that mean? Does that mean what products I have are available for them?
could be, but what I'm saying more so is have any of you ever on this call ever had someone that thought, oh, I'm not going to be able to retire till age 75? And with a little bit of planning, a little bit of possibility, you help them see that they could retire at 68.
Yeah.
Yeah, we think like that in the industry. It's like, oh, yeah, that's not that big a deal. How big a deal is that to someone over there who thought they were going to have to wait till 75 to retire and they're able to retire at 68? 7 years of their life.
Hmm.
It's like those types of things. It's like, just like I could help people see what's possible in my industry beyond what they could see because they just don't know my industry. It's the same thing in your industry. So, like, this goes back to our core belief at the Possibility Company, which is possibility exists, limitation is created. None of us can see what's actually possible, even for ourselves. We can only see what we think is possible. So it's a really interesting idea, right? How does a human being who believes this is possible, how do they start to see what's actually possible? The only way I've ever figured it out is through another human being that helps me see it. And here's what's crazy. No matter how far you grow, no matter how enlightened you become, there's always going to be more that's possible because possibility is infinite. So none of us will ever get to a place in our lives where it's like, I've mastered possibility. There's no more that's possible for me. I know all there is to know. I can see all there is to see. Like I even had this thought like I spoke at an event I spoke at the same event with Tony Robbins. I didn't speak with him, but Tony Robbins and I spoke at an event in the industry. I even got to thinking like Tony Robbins, the dude's a remarkable, right? Fed 1 billion people. He's now on a mission to feed 100 billion. He's changed so many lives. And I'm like, even Tony Robbins has a limit on, there's more that's possible for Tony than Tony can see, even as lightened as he is. But there's some human being out there, there's some leader that if they were able to be with Tony, they could raise his eyes up and he'd be like, oh my gosh, there's more that's possible. I'm just not seeing it. And that's what any business, by the way, is in a position to do, but especially this industry. Guys, people in this industry, like your prospective clients, they do not think in terms of abundance around money and wealth in their retirement. They think in terms of like bare minimum and scarcity. I hope I'm able to do this, and I hope I don't run out of money, and it's like it's all scarcity driven. We have a real opportunity to remove that scarcity and help them see that, yeah, we could put a plan in place that helps you never run out of money. We could put a plan in place that addresses this. That's fine, but what do you actually want? What's actually possible? So I'll give you a real life example. We had an advisor who was a one-on-one client of ours about a year and a half ago, and I taught him this exact principle. I taught him our sales strategy. I taught him how to actually tactically do this in a sales conversation, not just hypothetically. Our next coaching call, he gets on the call with me and he's like, dude, the timing of you teaching me how to help people see a bigger vision of what's possible and how to actually do that was really useful because the next day I had a couple come in. They were referred to us by another client, husband and wife. And I asked them, just like I ask every client that ever comes in my office, hey, so what are your goals in retirement? And they gave me some really basic, we want to be debt free. We never want to run out of money. Your standard. And normally I would stop there. I'd have been like, okay, great. Now, what are your concerns? He goes, but ringing in my ear was what you taught me. And I go, hey, that's awesome. Based on everything you've shared with me, like, I actually don't think you guys retiring debt free and never running out of money is actually going to be that difficult. I'll have to run the numbers, but like, what else would you want? Like, beyond that, what do you really want in retirement? And the wife keeps looking at the husband, and the husband just keeps staring at the advisor, and the wife looks at him and she elbows him and she's like, tell him. And the guy's like, no. And the advisor goes, now I have to know. What is it? And the guy literally goes, oh, it's not even worth talking about because it's not possible. And my client's like, dude, Chris talked about like a bigger vision of what's possible. What is it? He's like, I'm a pilot. I've flown for this ranch forever. And man, I'd love to own a plane in retirement, but there's just no way. And he's like, why? What kind of plane would you want? And the client tells him, and he's like, care if I pull up the internet and look at it? And they look at the plane and see how much it is. And he's like, wait, how much have you guys saved? And like they start getting into a little bit of their actual, this is in a like initial discovery meeting. And the advisor goes, I can't guarantee anything, but just like some napkin math with a little bit of strategy, you could totally have a plane in retirement. And the dude, get out of here. Don't mess with me. He's like, no, seriously, I think it's actually possible. I think you could have a plane in retirement.
Do you think most people have like scarcity, like a mindset like that client that, that's not me? Because I run into some people, especially younger people, that are like overly ambitious.
Sure.
They'll be
Well,
like 25 and they're like, I want to retire at 35 years old. I'm
yeah.
like,
And
I
there's
got to bring
certainly
it back
some of
to
that,
reality.
Brian. Yeah, there's certainly some of that. I would actually say way more people operate around scarcity for sure. The vast majority. Occasionally, you're going to get the person where you're going to have to help them see a vision of what's possible. That's actually, it's a different conversation. Yeah, hey, you could do that, but man, there's some real work to be done, and I have to tell you the truth. And but even then, that would be really serving someone to tell them the truth. And so that's how I see this. In either way, like we're just telling people the truth. Yeah, you want this? Okay. So I believe as an advisor, it's our responsibility to help people think bigger about what could be possible, but also show them a path of how they could get there. And that guy
Yeah.
was like, that advisor was like, that was one of the easiest discovery meetings, easiest client enrollments I've ever had. Because so it's that though. But he's like, dude, normally in the first meeting, I would have spent about this much time understanding their goals, about this much time understanding their challenges, and then I would have spent the rest of the time talking about me, my process, my approach, and they might have become clients. But again, and I'll wrap up here. And if anyone has any other questions, 'cause I do got to get ready for an upcoming call, but I know it sounds so simple, but it's if we could spend less time talking about our approach, our solutions, our products or services, and spend more time helping them get clear on what could actually be possible for them and the real challenges in the way, they will be so grateful that you were actually honest with them. They will be so grateful that you actually told them the truth. And the likelihood is that they're like, you're the one who helped me see this bigger vision of what's possible. Naturally, I want to implement it with you. They're already looking to you to be the solution. Interestingly enough, the most powerful way to want them to move forward with your solution isn't by talking about your solution. The most powerful way to get them to want to move forward with you as the solution is by helping them see a bigger vision of what's possible around a solution. It's like if I could just go and remove 85 to 90% of what most advisors know, it'd be the biggest blessing I could give to them. It's like if I could just go swipe like 80 to 90% of the like industry knowledge they have, they'd sell way more and work with way more clients faster. Okay. Any last thoughts, comments, questions?
Chris, is that something that you'd, I guess, speak to when you're like in as your value proposition is? I know that we've talked about, I think last time, and then when I've heard you speak before, like what do you want to be known for? And the kind of the introductory like framing of the first meeting is like, hey, what we're known for more than anything else is
Totally.
is helping our clients see a bigger vision of what's possible.
100%. Yeah. Like it could be really useful when you frame up, you know, how we say frame up the conversation. Hey, my only intention today is to add value to you, whether we work together or not. If it's okay, I'll tell you a little about what we're known for. The thing that we're known for more than anything is actually not just being financial advisors who give advice. There's lots of great places you can go today to get good advice, get good access to insurance products. That's pretty easy. What's rare though is to meet someone who's going to be a leader who provides leadership. So we see that what we're really known for is helping people see a bigger vision of what's possible in retirement and really showing up like leaders who provide leadership, not just advisors who give advice or something like that. You know what I mean? But then you better be prepared to actually then do that, because it'd be one thing you frame it up that way,
Right.
but then the whole time in the meeting you show up like an advisor just giving advice. Like the last thing I'll say with all this is I don't want to sound negative or like that this is like I guess I just see so many advisors, you guys, making this industry way more complicated than it need to be. I see them investing in, and look, I'm not saying I'm against any of this, but like I see a lot of advisors who aren't even close to hitting their goals, but like they're paying for like lead gen. They're spending tons of time on like their brand strategy and like marketing materials and like content. And it's like, you can do all of that, but guess what? You can do none of that and just go have real conversations with real people and start converting clients now, today. So also just be cautious of that. Do not make this industry more complicated than it needs to be. You have real human beings out there with real needs. And if you'll take the time to get to know them and then come back in a second meeting and show them, hey, here's how I think I can help you solve what it is you said, they will want to move forward with you and work with you. I think sometimes we put too much emphasis in this industry. I got to build a personal brand. I've got to like dial in all my email marketing. I've got to like generate leads. And it's like, yes. And in my opinion, though, you have no business doing any of that unless you're already working with clients. There's way too many people to go talk to right now in your community that you already know, that if you just go approach them and you know how to be with them in a way, they'll share with you what they're looking for.
If I know you guys have the collective, you have a couple different things, I'd love to learn more like how you show them what's possible, like what that actually looks. And I'd imagine like for me, someone would tell me they want to accomplish something, what their goals, dreams, and aspirations are. Then I would come back in a second meeting, maybe with some numbers,
Sure.
and show them, hey, this actually looks like this is possible. And this is how we can help you.
Yeah. Okay, I got literally 60 seconds. If we could make meeting one all about discovery in them, we earn the right to come back in meeting two, Brian, and show them, hey, now it doesn't have to be a concrete strategy, but it's like, hey, here's an idea of a strategy that I have that I believe would help you accomplish everything you talked about. Like, dude, it's so simple. But what most of us do is we don't do enough discovery meeting one. We try to pitch too much. Then we come back in meeting two, but we don't have a ton of value to offer because we didn't extract enough in meeting one to even show them something profound in meeting two. It's not that hard, but we make it really hard. Okay. I appreciate you guys. Thanks
Thank you.
for hopping on.
Bye.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Thanks so much for hopping on. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, Mason. You guys have an awesome rest of your week, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.